Hello, friends. Welcome to Level Up with Debbie Neal. I am your host. There is nowhere I would rather be than right here, right now with you. This podcast is all about leveling up in all aspects of our lives. Thank you for being here. I am so grateful. I'm excited to be on this journey with you. Together, we are leveling up. You ready? Hello, my Level Up friends. I hope you're absolutely amazing. I hope you are ready to grow and stretch. That is what we love to do here. And the ultimate goal is to really just become the very best version of ourselves. So when you think of level up, I want you to be like leveling up my vision, leveling up my success, leveling up my abundance, leveling up the way I think. But all that starts with leveling up your why. So today we're going to talk about your why, like that thing that gives you the fuel to do what you do. So it's something that fuels every single dreamer, every builder, and every leader. And what that is your why. Your why is the reason behind what you do. It's your fire. It's your compass. It's your anchor. It's what gets you out of bed when you'd rather sleep, when your emotions are saying, I don't feel like it today. It's what keeps you working when no one is watching. Especially, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't have a boss. The greatest thing about what I do is that I don't have a boss. The worst thing about what I do is that I don't have a boss. When you work for someone, you don't have a choice. You're getting up, you're doing it. And when you are your own boss, sometimes there's that temptation to not give something your all. Your why is what drives you to push beyond your limits when most people would give up. And so without a why, what ends up happening is you wander. You go through the motions. You drift. But with a why, this gives you direction. It gives you purpose. It gives you passion. And here's a quote. I don't know where I saw it, but I love it. If you don't know your why, you will work for someone else who does. And so I want you to think about that. That's really powerful because I've watched people leave being an entrepreneur and go get a job. I'm not here to knock it. I'm not here to judge. Okay. But because honestly, it's easier to take orders and do what you're told than to be so self-motivated. So when you think about that quote, that's really powerful and it's true. So entrepreneurs, dreamers, leaders, our why is what separates ordinary from unstoppable. And I want to really, some things that I want to talk about today are what a why really is. Like people are like, what's my why? What's my why? How do you develop a why? Maybe you have a why. Maybe it's time to update your why. Maybe you don't even know where to start. We're going to talk about that, how to develop a powerful why, especially if you're an entrepreneur, and like how to keep it alive in your vision. And we're going to talk about why creating a new why after you achieve your why keeps you growing. And I pray that this lights something inside of your heart and inside of your soul to really have that decided heart to take your business to the next level. And so I want to just share what my why was when I started my business almost 20 years ago. So I was a stay-at-home mom. I was out of corporate America for 5 years. I was absolutely praying for more. I had a good life, but I want you all to remember that good is the thief of great. Are you sitting somewhere now where it's good? It's not bad. I had no complaints. I had a beautiful home. I had a wonderful family. I feel like I wanted for nothing, but it didn't really mean I was pushing myself or raising my own personal bar. I wasn't making an impact in the world. And so that's what I love about what I do. I not only have the ability to change my life, but I have the ability to change the lives of others. And so when I was introduced to my business, the opportunity that I said yes to, I said yes because it was a business model that was brilliant. I said yes because of the longevity of the company, the products that the company sold. I read about the business model. I'm like, this is absolutely brilliant. It checked off all my boxes. So some of the boxes that I was praying for was the ability to travel, a merit-based business, be my own boss, inspire others to be more, coach people to win. I was an athlete. I loved that. Help other people do what I do. Like it literally checked off every single box. So I said yes for those reasons. I saw an opportunity to bring more money into my household. I'm like, yes, more choices, more flexibility, more impact, more empowering, more abundance. Yes. But it was my why that kept me going. So when I really thought about at the beginning why I said yes to this business that I build, and by the way, side note, you might not be in my industry and you'd like to know more about what I do for a living, message me, DM me, because I am always looking for leaders that want more out of life. They'd love to be coached to win, and they'd love to partner with me and build what has the potential to be a life-changing business. So when I started my business, my children, Brooke was 6, Tyler was 4, Bailey and Ryan were 1.5. So like you'd probably think, oh, college is far off. But I didn't have a plan for college. Now, I would tell anyone, as soon as your children are born, start a 529 plan. You guys, I never did that. Now, I could have done it at that point, but embarrassingly enough, didn't even think about it at that point. So, because you start a 529 plan, you're putting in X amount. By the time they go to college, it's growing exponentially. You're investing, and you don't have to stress about college if you plan ahead. I didn't plan ahead. Again, had a good life, didn't know about that. Nobody taught me about that. As amazing as my parents are, they didn't teach me that I should have a 529 plan. So long story short, I looked at like what projected costs of colleges were going to be. Now and I was even thinking, hopefully my children are great students. They were great students at the time, but they were 6 and 4, my 2 that went to school. So how do I know? And so, but I even looked and I was like, if they're great students and they get what's called merit in the United States, meaning, okay, you got good grades, so we'll reward you with this. And they all got merit. So they all got somewhere between $20,000 and $45,000 a year to attend college based on merit, based on their college, thank goodness. But even with merit, college education for my 4 children was going to be $1 million. That's what I calculated it back then, and it's actually dollar for dollar. I still have Brooke and Tyler are done, graduated, no student loans, praise the Lord, and Bailey and Ryan are juniors. When it's all said and done, it's going to be $1 million for tuition. And so that was my why. I actually wrote on a piece of paper, $1 million. Do a lot of kids take student loans out today? Of course. It's expected almost, but I was like, I know better. I can do better. I can build a business that has the potential to allow my children to graduate from college and not get into their real adult life with student loans. So I wrote $1 million, 1,000,000, and then I also wrote out the word $1 million. And I kept that in front of me. That was my why. That was my why when I didn't feel like making phone calls. That was my why when I was burnt out. That was my why when I hit an obstacle and it really hurt. That was my why when I got a really negative, nasty no. That was my why when I got rejected. That was my why when I drove hours for a presentation and nobody showed and I ate the whole entire bowl of dip with the chips. Okay. That was my why. And it kept me going. My why made me work. My why made me emotional. And you know what I used to say to myself, and I would encourage you to do this. So like if there was a day where I was like, I just can't do it. I can't do it. I've had enough. I was like, okay, Deb, what you're actually saying is you don't care enough to push through this so your kids don't have student loans. And I was like, get over yourself, get up and do it. And so my why made me work. And then as I grew in my business, I grew a business that, praise God, was a business big enough that I was able to pay for my children's college. But then I realized it's time to find a new why. And then that next why was like, what are weddings going to cost? Because I remember if you guys were anything like me, it's like when my kids stopped wearing diapers, I was like, I could save money on diapers. I am rolling in the money. Kids don't get cheaper as they grow up. They get more expensive as they grow up. And everybody can parent differently. But even now, and this is not coming from judging, but you know what? One of my whys are now such a big why. And I'm so blessed with my business. But so I have 4 children. One is married. Brooke is married. Tyler and Jamie are getting married in June. Ryan is very serious with Carly. They've been together about 4 years, and Bailey's still my single child. But I basically have 7 children now. I don't have 4 children. I have 7 children. How blessed am I? And so my why now is like, do you guys, when we go out to dinner and it's 7 of them and me, it's 7 of them and me and Scott, that's not a small bill. I don't want to split the bill ever with my kids. I don't care how old they get. And some people could be like, my kids are 40. I split it with them. All right, knock yourself out. I don't want to. So it's a new level of why. So it's dinners, it's vacations, it's holidays, grandchildren are coming. Like my why keeps expanding. And that's what keeps me on the field playing to win and leveling up my business because we have one life, we have no dress rehearsal, and I have a why that I am inspired to work. So that's my why. That's what keeps me going. So, and I hope that maybe you don't need to have the same why as mine. In fact, you could hear it and be like, no, it's not my goal to buy dinners when my kids are older. Okay. But you do need something, a why that makes you work. So what is your why? Let's talk about this. What is your why? Your why is your emotional fuel. Like it's the heartbeat behind every single action that you will take in your professional life. It's why you started your business. It's why you chose growth when comfort is easier. It's why you stay up late and why you get up early and keep showing up even when the results haven't caught up yet. Do you guys know if you're one of those people that show up even when you don't get the results you want, you're part of the winner's circle. I've been building my business for 20 years and I see it all the time. People show up when things are going good. And then when they don't have a good week, they don't have a good day, they don't have a good month, they're like, oh, woe is me. I can't get on. I can't attend this. I can't do that. And they don't show up consistently and then wonder why their business is not growing. Your why is your anchor when the winds of doubt start to blow, and they will. And so what I want you to think about when you started your business, maybe you were excited, you were motivated, you were inspired, but what happens when that excitement fades? What happens? What happens when rejection hits? When things take longer than expected? When the income doesn't match the effort? You know what happens to 99% of the world when they're an entrepreneur? They quit. And it's not always like an announcement like I quit. They stop being excellent. They stop pushing. They're afraid to go for it because all of a sudden they're thinking, what if this doesn't work? What if I fail? What if I miss this goal? What if? That's when people settle unless they have a why. Okay. Your why is going to be the reason that you don't quit. It's the reason that you're going to push through your fear. It's the reason that you're going to stay the course when no one understands your vision. It's the voice that's going to whisper, you were made for this. You have what it takes. You can do this. When the world is saying, relax, it's too hard. Don't get uncomfortable. Maybe you're not in alignment. Maybe you're not in alignment with this. Entrepreneurship isn't easy. It's emotional. It's risky. It's uncertain. But I'll tell you this, I wouldn't trade that for any amount of money to go work for somebody else and build their why, their future, their family, and their dreams. Your why keeps you steady. People who have a strong sense of purpose, they perform better, they stay more resilient, they feel more fulfilled. Purpose-driven people don't just survive, they thrive. They don't burn out. You know what they do? They burn bright. They shine. So I want you to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I building what I'm building? Not just for income. Like I want you to think beyond whatever the income potential is for whatever it is you do, not just for the status, but for impact. Because when your why is strong, the how always gets figured out. You know, when people are like, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I do this? Your why is just not strong enough. I understand teaching practical things. I'm in a business that I teach practical things, how to have a one-on-one, how to do a group presentation, how to share our opportunity, how to share our products, what our system for success is. But the people that are constantly like, how, their why is just not strong enough. I remember starting my business. I literally didn't know what I was doing. I figured it out. I sold products. I sold an opportunity. I shared the company. I shared the products. I shared the business. I shared my vision over and over and over and over again. And I figured out how to do this business. Okay. When we were young, we used to dream of being anything, an astronaut, the president, a prince, princess. But as you get older, your dreams change, focusing less on running the world and more on how you can take your skills and ideas and turn them into something real. Instead of dreaming of going to space or owning a castle, maybe you start dreaming of owning your own business. You'll need a website, a payment plan, a logo, and a way to advertise to new customers. It can all be overwhelming and confusing, but thankfully, that is where today's sponsor, Shopify, comes in. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started. What if people haven't heard about my brand? Shopify helps you find your customers with easy to run email and social media campaigns. And what if I get stuck? Shopify's always around to share advice with their award-winning 24/7 customer service. Turn those dreams into and give them the best shot at success with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and get selling today at shopify.com/level up. Go to shopify.com/level up. Shopify.com/level up. So let's talk about developing a powerful why. And entrepreneurs, this is what makes a difference. When you're building something from scratch, you're not just creating a business, you have the potential to create a legacy. You're creating options. I love options. I love the option to live how I want to live. And for me, my business had the ability to create that. You're creating freedom. People could define freedom any way they want. It could be time flexibility. It could be choices. It could be the freedom of how to spend your days. But let me tell you something about freedom. It's not free. Any freedom requires sacrifice. You're creating impact. Impact is probably one of my favorite words about doing what I do, because yes, it hasn't had an impact on my family, but it's had an impact on thousands of other people because and I'm not saying this is about me. This is what happens when you have a powerful why and you refuse to settle for ordinary. I don't want a job that doesn't have the ability to have an impact and a ripple effect in this world. So that keeps me going. So here's how to uncover and strengthen your why. So first, number one, I want you to start with vision, not profit. Money is a result, not a reason. And the reason I say that is because if your why is only about the income potential, you will stop when it gets hard. You know why? Because there's many ways to earn money. And I've said this, somebody can knock on my door. I am very well aware that there are people that make way more money than I do. They can knock on my door, offer me a job from 7 in the morning till 7 at night for 10 times what I'm earning right now. And the answer will be no. Do you know why? Because as much as I love building a business that has the ability to financially be rewarding, it's not the only thing that keeps me going. It's not my why. I want to, when I have children getting married and grandchildren, I want to live my days, the rest of my days on this earth, whether that be 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. I don't want to say 30 years. That would be terrible. Okay. 40 years plus. I want to live them as I want. So if your why is only about income, you will stop when it gets hard. I've heard people say, well, why do I do this? I make enough money. I'm like, oh my gosh, your why is too small. This is not about you. There will be moments when no one buys your products, when your idea gets criticized, when you wonder if it's even worth it. But when your why is to create freedom of choice, to change lives, to build something that outlives you, you will find the strength that you didn't even know that you had. So I want you to ask yourself, what do I want my life and my business to stand for? And so when I think of those things, I want my life to stand for courage, faith, to have discipline, to make impact, to help other people tap into their God-given potential. What I want you to ask you this question too. What story do I want people to tell because I had the courage to start? And so I want people to say, because of this business, I can spend time with my parents that are growing old. Because of this business, I have confidence that I never knew that I had. Because of this business, I'm able to take my family on a vacation. Because of this, I want people to take the pen back of their own life and write their future because I had the courage to not settle. Do you have the courage to not settle? Every great company, every great movement, every great mission started with a why. Started with a why. If you think of a company like Apple, it didn't start with computers. They started with a belief to challenge the status quo and to think differently. And so that was the why. You don't need to sell a product as much as you need to sell belief. So number 2, anchor your why in emotional and get an emotion. And I said that at the beginning, does your why make you cry? Like I would get emotional thinking about what it was going to feel like to look at my kids and say, college is paid for. We've got this. You don't have to worry about it. So logic will get you started. I started my business because logically it made sense, but emotion keeps you going. Your why should make you feel something. Your why should make you cry. It brings tears to your eyes or goosebumps from head to toe when you think of what you're creating. Maybe your why is to give your family choices that you never had. Maybe it's to show your kids that anything is possible when you make a decision and you decide to be all in. Maybe it's to break a generational cycle of scarcity, fear, or limitation. Maybe you grew up in a house where a job to most people, they lived for Fridays and dreaded Mondays. And they had the mindset that like, no, I don't love what I do, but it earns me a living. I don't want my kids to see that. Is what I do for everyone? No. But what I do is a gift from God in my life, and I want to share it with people. And I thank God for what I do. I love that I wake up every day and I love what I do. I love the company I represent. I love who I've become. I love my team. I love my industry. I love coaching people to win. And that emotion, that heart level connection gives your goals muscle. So write it down, make it personal, right? So I don't know, an example could be my why is to create a business that empowers others to live life on their terms. So my family never has to trade time for money again. And that's not just a sentence, that's a mission statement. Okay. Number 3, make your why bigger than you. When your why only serves you, it eventually loses its spark. So like it could be, my why is to grow to this level, or my why is to grow to, earn this amount of money. Let's just throw a number out there. Maybe your why is, I want to make $10,000 a month. Okay. And some of you might be like, that would be amazing. That would be like $120,000 a year. That would change my life. Okay. What are you going to do when you achieve that? What if it's in a business of inspiring other people to do more? Like what? You're just going to arrive? You're just going to arrive and just expect things to maintain? No. Then there's only one way for your business to go, and it's down. It's down because that's a why that only served you and your family. And it needs to be bigger than that. But when your why serves others, you know what it does? It expands your energy. Entrepreneurs who thrive have a mission beyond themselves. So they'll ask themselves things like, who am I serving? How will their life be better because I leveled up? When your why impacts others, you'll have an endless supply of motivation. So for me at the beginning, my why affected my children. If I didn't show up, if I didn't grow to who I was meant to be, then my children would suffer those consequences. And I could justify it any which way but Sunday. Most people take out student loans. $1 million is a lot of money. They could pay for their own college. I paid for my own college, which I didn't, by the way. My parents paid for mine. But we know that we could find a story to support our excuse. But because you can quit on yourself, it's harder to quit on somebody that's counting on you. So I want you to think of leaders who built communities, movements, and brands around serving other people. Their why became contagious. So number 4, turn your pain into purpose. You will have pain doing anything worthwhile. Every struggle you've had can be fuel for your why. So maybe you grew up, I don't know, financially insecure. Maybe you're at a point in your life that you feel unseen or unheard or underestimated. Maybe you've been told you can't do it. Maybe the world is saying this is hard. Maybe the world is saying, I don't like the business you're building. Good. Because that pain becomes purpose. That resistance becomes your reason. Do you know how many people, when I started my business, were like, oh my gosh, that's not going to work. Oh my gosh, Scott must not be doing so well. Debbie's building this little business. I'm like, yeah, little business. Watch what I build. And so that resistance became my reason. Like when people didn't believe in me, I'm like, oh, game on. Game on. And so the best entrepreneurs build solutions to problems that they once faced. They don't run from their past. They redeem their past. We have the pen. You have the opportunity to rewrite your life. Your pain is not a roadblock. It's a road map. Okay. And number 5, write it, see it, and speak it. And so once your why feels clear, put it everywhere. I wrote $1 million everywhere. And it wasn't just I want to earn $1 million. It was that $1 million represented what it would cost to send my children to college. It wasn't just a number. It wasn't just about the income. So write it in your journal, write it in your planner, write it on your calendar, put it on your vision board, make it wallpaper on your phone, read it as often as you can, speak it out loud until you believe it to your bones. The more you see it, the more your brain is going to believe it, the more you repeat it, and the more your actions will align, because we say this on almost every single podcast, we operate at our belief level. Number 6, check alignment often, weekly, daily, every week. I want you to pause and ask, are my actions serving my why? So like if this is my why, I'll use mine again, $1 million to pay for college. And I started this business when Brooke was sick. So she clearly had many years for me to be putting away and earn this for her to go to college. Are my actions serving my why? If not, that means you've drifted. Maybe it's procrastination. Maybe it's distraction. Maybe it's laziness. Okay. World's become a little lazy. So here's where we need to realign. We need to refocus. We need to recommit. Entrepreneurship is constant course correction. You will get off course. All of a sudden, sometimes I'm like, how did I even get here? Like, have you guys ever been like swimming in the ocean and like you think you're swimming in place and all of a sudden you're like hung a left and like you look for your family on the beach and they're way down? That's what happens when you literally lose focus for 2 seconds. It's constant course correction. Let's get back. Let's get back. Your why is your compass. It doesn't prevent storms. It helps you navigate through the storms. So spend 1 quiet hour this week and write your why manifesto. Why did you start your business? Who are you serving? What will it mean when you succeed? When you read it, It should make you emotional. That's when you know that it's real. Like you can't force it. When people say, I don't have a why, I'm like, really? Like you don't have anything that you're passionate about that's going to make you work to become better? Like if you don't have a why, you need to figure this out. Okay. So let's talk about the next thing, keeping your why in your vision. Your why isn't a one-time discovery. It's a living, breathing force that must stay in front of you all the time because life will distract you. Business will test you. People will question you. If you don't intentionally keep your why in your view, in your vision, you will forget it in the noise. And then you will end up hearing the negativity, being a part of the negativity. It's like there's this club that's like just negative and they complain about everything. Okay. So we're going to talk about some things now, how to keep your why alive. Visualize it daily. Take a moment every single morning to see yourself living your why. Feel what it's going to feel like. Picture the outcome. Speak it often. This is where the affirmations come in. Tell your team, tell your family, tell your customers. Like I told my kids when they were younger, you'll never have to take out student loans. You'll never have to take out student loans. Like I breathed it. I was like, that's a promise that I made to myself and to them. And I'm not going back on that. Sometimes people are like, I'm afraid to say it. What if it doesn't happen? Well, make it happen. Make it happen. When you share your why, you remind yourself of your why and you're inspiring the people around you to be more and align your decisions with it. Every yes and no should honor your why. If it doesn't align, it doesn't belong. And so create habits around it. Start your morning by reading your why. End your week with reflecting, how did I live my why this week? When you lose sight of your why, you start to wander. You go through the motions without meaning. But when you keep your why in front of you, in focus, in your vision, you move with intention and you move with fire because clarity fuels consistency. A confused mind doesn't do anything. When you're clear, that clarity is what's going to get you to build over and over and over again. And consistency compounds into greatness. Okay. So now we're going to talk about achieving your why and then creating the next one. Just like I talked about, I was able to pay for my children's college. Now what's next? There's weddings, there's vacations, there's family meals, there's holidays. You know, in an ideal world, which is also part of my why, all four of my children live in the same state, the same town, and we could see each other all the time. I'm not a controlling parent, so I want my kids to live wherever it is that makes them happy. That might not happen, but one of my whys is I will own something in every single town that my kids live in so I could travel and see them whenever I want. And as much as they love me, if I want to stay for 2 weeks, they don't have to entertain me for 2 weeks. That's a why that makes me work. I don't want to spend my retiring years. When I say retiring years, I'm never retiring. I'm so blessed to do what I do. I could do it till I take my last breath. But I want to spend those years with my children and with my grandchildren. So that's a why that makes me emotional. That's a why that keeps me from justifying a good life and giving that up for a great life. So when you hit your goal, when your original why is fulfilled, celebrate it. Awesome. You've earned the victory, but don't stop there. Create a new why. Because when you stop chasing something meaningful, you start coasting in business and you start coasting in life. Comfort becomes your enemy. A new why keeps you expanding. It keeps you curious. It keeps you creative. It keeps you consistent and it keeps you courageous. You've climbed the mountain. You did an awesome thing, but the view at the top is not the finish line. It's a brand new horizon. I remember when I grew to the top of my company, I was like, yes, I'm at the top. And then I peeked over. I was like, wow, there is so much more to go from here. There's so much more impact. Your next why might be to give back. Maybe it's to mentor others. Maybe it's to build something that lifts more people higher. Purpose evolves, and so should you. Every time you create a new why, you ignite your energy. You remind yourself that growth never ends. Your why is your fire. Your why is your focus. It's your compass. It's what gets you up when you're tired. It's what keeps you building when the results aren't visible yet. It's what separates the dreamers who talk from the leaders who do. If you don't know your why, you will always work for somebody that does. So take time today to define your why. I want you to write it down. I want you to speak it out loud. I want you to see it every day. And when you achieve it, I want you immediately setting the next one, because that's how you level up again and again and again. So I love you, friends. If this episode, I want to know your why. Take a picture of your why. Tag me in your why. Get fueled up and fired up about your why. And if this message, if this episode inspired you, send it to a friend, share it, because really think about what the world could be if we all knew exactly why we were building something. Why we're building something. So I love you, friends. Have the most powerful and amazing week.